Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. We can't go back to overs, we're just moving on. We can't go back in time because the past is gone. So give us this day, today. You say you're always sad and lonely. Well, look around, you're not alone. Every Indian has a new day. Your day is here, no, you're not alone. Today, the world seems better today. I feel a smile comb my way. Today, today, today. You say you're always sad and lonely. Well, look around, you're not alone. Every Indian has a new day. Your day is here, no, you're not alone. Today, the world seems better today. I feel a smile comb my way. Today, today, today. We can't go back in time, you know the past is gone. We can't go back to overs, we're just moving on. Cause yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. Today is a gift, not just a luxury. So give us this day today. What a beautiful day. It's such a beautiful day. It's your day today. You made it today. You're a winner today.
Well, people, those were the sounds of a great up-and-coming star named John Henry Casani. And that was him live in the studio not very long ago. I'm taking off my cowboy hat as we get ready to do an interview with a man named Wayne. But I'm taking off the hat. This is not my usual white hat. It's got red, white, and blue around it. I had to wear a red Trump-type tie today. The blue shirts for the working people that voted for Trump because they understood the Democratic Party had completely abandoned them for weird minority views. And that's why Trump is president today, in spite of Doc Shirley Moore's prediction that he would never get to the presidency, he would be assassinated, or Obama would declare martial law. None of that happened. I didn't think it would happen. Trump is now president for 7 hours and 5 minutes, and he's right now at some inaugural ball in Washington, D.C., where I had hoped John Henry Casani would be performing at one of those balls. He's got a new CD coming out like next week, brand new release. But I like that music video with Donald Trump and John Henry Casani singing, "Today is a beautiful day." And for millions of forgotten, ignored, abused, and ruined Americans, including cowboys that run ranches, today is a beautiful day because the Obama fake president is now landing somewhere near Palm Springs, California. He's out of the White House. They're going to drain the swamp, I hope. I think they've been disinfecting the White House while Trump is off at a inaugural ball or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6. Another guy we're going to get to, I hope later, is Irwin Schiff. Died in prison because Obama wouldn't grant him a pardon. Neither would George W. Bush, who was president at the time. He was wrongfully put in prison for committing no crime at all. No common law crime did he commit. He didn't kill anybody, didn't steal anybody, didn't trespass against anybody. He didn't commit any common law crime whatsoever. He did, however, observe that the federal personal income tax is quackery. And he wrote this book called The Federal Mafia. So Irwin Schiff, because he taught hundreds of thousands of people how they could lawfully stop paying an illegal, unlawful tax that violates the Constitution, this crazy federal judge in Las Vegas decided, I got to put you in prison. And he wouldn't let the witnesses defending Irwin Schiff speak. And if we get to it tonight, we'll have the now late Michael Golden, who died in 2012, interview I did with him. We'll have him on tonight. Now, Michael Golden has passed, and part of the agreement I had is that till he was dead, and of course he didn't think he would die before I did, but he's gone. And it's an interesting interview. But before we get to that, far away in Utah, I think, his name is Wayne. And he was at the Malauer Reserve, which in my opinion was completely a setup. So I think we want to go to full screen. Let's bring up Wayne on screen. Wayne, can you hear me?
I sure can.
There he is, Wayne. Wayne Bachmann is one of those patriots that actually went places and did things to try to find out what was going on. And one of the places he went was Oregon. Now you've got what kind of a official diploma from Utah, Wayne? Welcome to the show, by the way. I'm sorry, welcome to the show.
No problem, William. I don't have any official declaration from Utah other than the fact that I graduated from Cleon Skousen's seminar on the Constitution. I do have those diplomas, but they're not here right now because I'm in the middle of moving yet.
You're in the middle of moving.
Right. I have lived next to the refuge, about 21 miles from the refuge for roughly 20 years.
Now, today is the day that Donald Trump took office, and I hope within a month to find out who Obama pardoned. I'm pretty certain he didn't pardon Ed Brown or his wife, Dr. Elaine Brown, from their technical crime of not paying a voluntary tax. I'm pretty certain he didn't pardon the Bundys from the upcoming trial they have next month in February, I think it is. And I'm pretty sure Obama didn't pardon any of those people. So where are we, Wayne? What's your hope?
Well, my hope is that all of them get released because none of them have any lawful charges against them. The only person that I saw commit any crime was Mark McConnell, and that's the one that drove everybody into the refuge, or not the refuge, drove everybody into the roadblock. Mark McConnell is the one who drove that orange Jeep, and he was an FBI informant, as we've been told. And I watched him commit a crime, assault somebody there at the refuge, and that's the only crime that I witnessed there was Mark McConnell's doings.
He assaulted somebody else who was also working for the FBI or some federal agency?
I don't know who the other guy was working for, but it is obvious he was another infiltrator because Mark McConnell was nasty, crude, filthy in his face, yelling at the top of his lungs because he did not obey orders of some nature. I was so upset by what was going on that I left. I was going to get in my car and leave, and I figured that when I was on my way to the car, I got to thinking about this. Ammon and Ryan and Lavoie, they're not like this. And so I decided to stay to support them in their cause. I've known about this BLM problem since 1976. Cleon Skousen told us about it, but I'd never met anybody who was personally involved until I met the Bundys.
I see.
And I followed them. I followed them on the Nevada deal, and I wanted to go, but I couldn't. So when they decided to have this rally for the Hammonds in Burns, I made a definite beeline for the place so I could be a part of it. And then Ryan took off. Ryan and those who went with him took off for the refuge, and I stayed. Pete Santilli and I stayed and went to the meeting that was there at the fairgrounds in Burns.
Now you mentioned Pete Santilli, who had one of the first videos out, and I think it was on some guy's show from Texas. Do you think Pete Santilli was a government double agent?
No, I don't. A
lot of people have said he is.
I know it. And I do not support that theory. In getting to know Pete, he is he's loud, he's obnoxious, but he's a patriot. He's not an infiltrator. I do not believe he was trying to stir up trouble other than, say, you can compare him to Donald Trump. They're both patriots. They're both very outspoken, and they're both willing to take a stand for what's right. And that's how I view Pete Santilli as being a lot like Donald Trump.
Okay.
None of those guys have any
I just
business.
wanted to ask because I've heard this. I haven't met Pete Santilli myself. I think he's in custody, isn't he, somewhere?
Yes, he's in custody down at Nevada, Pahrump.
He's waiting for the trials to start in Nevada too.
Yes.
And there's
That's
another
it.
guy who's a friend of Donald Trump's named Jerry something from
Jerry
Nevada.
DeLamus. I hope I'm not butchering his last name. I'm friended with his wife. I think I was friended with him until he got put in jail. But yes, I'm friended with Jerry DeLamus's wife, and he is one of Donald Trump's friends.
There's a chance Donald Trump will just grant him a pardon.
I hope he grants all of them a pardon. None of them are being held there lawfully.
I mean, shouldn't the BLM be put in jail? All those people that killed the cattle, they killed 2 breeding bulls, according to what Cleveland Bundy's wife told me. They killed 2 breeding bulls, and they killed about 30 or 40 heads of cattle. He was out $200,000 for what the BLM did in trespassing. They were grandfathered in. Their rights to use that grazing land existed before the state of Nevada did, and apparently what Cleveland told me is their ancestor, within a month of the state of Nevada being established, went and filed a form and paid $10 in silver dollars for those grazing rights. So they don't owe, and they don't owe anybody anything for grazing. And the BLM was created in the 1930s or something, and they're saying, "Oh, but you owe us money." And
But they don't.
They don't.
BLM has never had any lawful holding on that land, because this is one of the things that Ammon and Ryan pushed, was to expose, bring all this to light. They had roughly 1,000 redress of grievances filed, which all got ignored, and that's what brought things to a head here. BLM, what they have found out is that the BLM has never had control of that land. Never. And still does not have lawful control of that land. They're usurping authority. And they just have no business being there. They don't even have the land grants, because I don't remember the particulars of it, but they did some property research, kind of a genealogy thing, and found out that BLM has never been authorized on that land. They've never had any control whatsoever. They have just merely assumed, and you know what assuming does, and now they are holding these charges against these people for no lawful reason whatsoever. And Donald Trump apparently has said that he's going to get them released or get the patriots freed, and I'm hoping he fulfills that. Jerry DeLamus is one of Donald Trump's friends, and here he is locked up in there with the rest of them. And they're all just trying to stand up and say enough is enough, from BLM, from the forestry, all those people that are they're owned, BLM anyway, is owned by a foreign corporation. They have no business whatsoever.
Yeah, this reminds me again of Erwin Schiff's book, The Federal Mafia.
Yes.
The BLM is another form of a federal mafia that have no rights. These are criminals with federal government badges. And I'm hoping once Donald Trump gets his cabinet put together, he's still putting his cabinet together. I believe today several were confirmed already. He'll whack these BLM people. I would like to see some head rolls. I'd like to see some head rolls. I think the head of the BLM should lose his pension, should go to jail, should be prosecuted as an accessory to a crime, and everybody in the chain of command. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I was very privileged in my history. I mean, it just amazes me to look at what I've gone through. I was taught the Constitution by Cleon Skousen. And then I ended up learning commercial law from somebody Cleon Skousen worked with by the name of Hartford Van Dyke. And he has a very interesting history, too. You ought to Google him. Hartford taught me commercial law and the use of the bonding companies. These agents for the government are not government. They're just a mass of corporations. And if you don't work for McDonald's, if you don't contract with McDonald's, you have no obligation to obey them. And that's exactly the relationship that is going on with the government. It's just massive corporations that I myself have no contract with them. I don't have to obey them. I don't even have state issue plates on my car. I don't have a driver's license. I'm a little bit like Charlie Sprinkle, and I know you know him.
I had Charlie Sprinkle on the show 3 times.
Yep. So, but I can show you with contract law that none of these corporate agencies called government have any lawful standing to have any of these charges against any of them. And I think one of the reasons that there's so much strong energy being put into keeping them locked up is because they have murdered somebody, Lavoy Finicum, and that other rancher over in Idaho. I can't remember his name offhand, but they've already murdered 2 ranchers senselessly, totally senselessly.
Now,
And
when you say they, please be specific.
okay, as I understand it, I wasn't there. I left 2 days beforehand, and I wasn't with them. But it is my understanding it was FBI is the one that apparently shot the live rounds, and apparently it was, as I understand, it was the state police that shot the rubber bullets. Now I don't know the facts. I was not there, but that's what I've been told. Then there was a rancher over in Idaho, and like I said, I can't remember his name, but he had a bull out on the road, and it got hit by somebody. I think it was the sheriff department came out there, and the rancher himself tried to put the cow out or the bull out because he was in he was beyond repair. So the rancher himself tried to kill the bull, and the sheriff's deputy shot him. We have had enough.
Why?
There is no reason. There is no lawful excuse. No reason whatsoever. And this is the kind of out of control government we're dealing with. And we are fed up with it.
Well,
the people had it.
I agree with you.
Cleonson told us about this overreaching of the BLM back in 1976. So I have known about this problem ever since then. I just have not met anybody who is actually involved with it, or I'd have been involved with this for a long time ago.
You spent how many days at the Malheur Reserve yourself? You spent how many days?
Okay, it's Malheur. It's an odd spelling. You almost have to live there to know the pronunciation. But it's Malheur, and I was there. I got there on the 18th to go to Chris Ann Hall's meeting. I was there for the 19th on Chris Ann Hall's meeting, the second one.
And she was there teaching the Constitution. Correct.
Yes, trying to wake the people up. There was some other guys, and I asked her if she would come out there and present her information there, and she did. She came out there and presented her messages on the 18th and 19th. And then I left the following Sunday, which would have been the 24th, and then Lavoy was murdered on the 26th. And Ryan still has the bullet in his shoulder, keeping it there for evidence of the crime committed. Crimes, plural, committed.
He still has?
Yes.
In his shoulder?
Yes. He's keeping it there for evidence.
Well, oh, wow, that's what I call a dedicated cowboy patriot.
Well, and he is.
My hat's off to you, Ryan.
It wasn't a full bullet. It was a ricochet fragment.
Fragment. So it must be causing a bit of an infection.
Oh, and that's been my concern, that or lead poisoning. But he's keeping it in his shoulder as evidence. And they have done all kinds of intimidation tactics. They slammed a garbage can over his head, from one report said, and they have beat his head into door jambs, steel door jambs, just trying to intimidate him and put him under duress to release that bullet, because we're under the suspicion, and I don't know this as fact, but this is what I've been told, is that bullet is one of the 3 bullets that's missing and unaccounted for.
One of the 3 bullets that is missing and unaccounted for, and it's in Ryan's shoulder.
Right. I don't remember which shoulder, but one or the other. It's in his shoulder.
God bless you, Ryan Bundy. God bless you. I met your dad. I haven't met Ryan, and I talked to Amon, but I haven't met Amon. I had Amon on the show by Skype or phone interview, oh God, a long time ago, before this thing started in Portland. But the jury came back in Portland and said, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, on all of them. Isn't that a fact?
Yes, it is a fact. Only after they got rid of the one, what I would call an infiltrator jurist, who was apparently previously employed by the BLM or FBI, one or the other. So they got rid of him. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Say that again. Say that slowly.
Okay. One of the 12 jurists was a previous employee of, I don't remember if it was FBI or BLM, but one of the agencies, and he was always apparently going against what the other jurists felt. So they wanted him out of there, and they got their wish, got rid of him, put somebody else in, and then it was a unanimous vote for them not being guilty.
Wow. That, that's beginning to become a pattern we're seeing all over the country. I'm thinking of Kelly Thomas, a homeless schizophrenic man whose father had been a cop, and two cops beat him to death, literally pounded him into the ground. And I went to the trial. I was there for the trial. I argued with the judge. I wanted to have my own camera and the judge said, no, you can just hook up to the media pool. But point being, we now know that two of the people on that juror that found those two cops not guilty of clearly murdering this homeless man, two of those people had been government employees. And that's why the judge retired right after that case. And to this day, people, that judge has never released the names of those jurors. And now we know why. Because two of them had no business being on that jury. They obviously, working either for the DA or any DA-related organization, had no business there. And while I'm on that, we now have Michelle Lipton, who wrote the letter that said clearly, stop doing this mortgage fraud to a guy named Craig Ronald Diamond in Cindy Brown's case, who's a gold medal winning Olympian. And now Michelle Lipton is working for the DA's office, and she doesn't want to deal with it. She's now in Orange County, right where the crime committed, and she could bring charges against Ronald Craig Diamond and relieve Cindy Brown, who's had her ID stolen, her bank account emptied by these crooks. She could stop it. She's in the right place to do it, and for some reason, she's not doing it. What is wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture? Anyway, back to my guest who's up in, where are you in Utah? North of Logan?
Yeah, I'm here in Hiram. It's about 8 miles from Logan.
Wow. Well,
you want me to give a GPS address so my enemies can come and attack me, because I am doing my best to help take Lavoie's place with the ranchers.
No, we don't need any more victims of government abuse, Wayne. But I'm really glad you're on the show tonight with us, because it's possible that Jerry will get a release from prison, because the president, by executive order, can just say, I'm giving a full pardon for any crime you think he committed. And so, it would make a trial useless. And we, the people, I'm praying that Donald Trump represents we, the people. Jerry's one of the people, Cleveland Bundy, Ryan Bundy, Amon Bundy, all those people that were wrongfully treated. And they need to get reparations paid. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of president we have now. He doesn't need to milk the system. He's already a billionaire. And I'm hoping Bundys get justice. I'm sure there's people out there up in Bunkerville are hoping he gets justice. And to me, justice isn't being just acquitted. Justice is the BLM agents. Every agent that went out there should be put on trial for trespass, for criminal trespass, with intent to do great bodily harm. We have video of them pointing guns, and they make a big deal about the cowboys. You watch the cowboys, very few cowboys were even carrying a gun. And the militia that showed up, only the one or two on the I-15 was pointing a gun, only one or two out in the hills. Most of the people pointing the guns were the BLM agents hired specifically to show Bundy the strong arm of the King Obama.
And the reason
and Obama's now in disgrace. And I'm not even going to go into his fake birth certificate. We don't have time for his fake birth certificate. That was another show. And you can find my YouTube clip on Obama's trial in Atlanta, Georgia, that nobody but William Wagener covered. I'm the only one put it on YouTube. The whole trial is on YouTube, the one in Atlanta. I'm the only one that showed up in 2008 when attorney and dentist Orly Tates took Obama to task claiming and trying to prove, but the court wouldn't let her. And I was there when and Judge Carter said, well, this is going to go to trial in January of next year. And then Judge Carter did a backwater thing, and we didn't know it at the time, but we found out later that federal judge David O. Carter was given a new personal lawyer clerk. And later we find out, many months later, we find out that clerk had previously worked for the private law firm that was defending Obama before he became president and had the federal government to defend him. Now that seems to me to be such a clear case of impropriety. Federal Judge Carter should have said right away, this guy can't be my right-hand clerk. He can't be there because he worked for the opposition. If you'd had somebody who was in partnership with Orly Tates and he became the judge's clerk, they would have said foul, foul. So it should cut both ways. So we need to get David O. Carter impeached, even though he was a U.S. Marine. But this U.S. Marine did not remain faithful. No sympathy for him. And I don't know what kind of pressure they put in twisting his arm behind his back, but I'm sure there was some pressure. But if you're a federal judge and you're supposed to see that the law, and you've already announced Obama's going on trial in front of a federal jury, and then you renege, we need to look at that very carefully. My guess is Carter will be retired, taking his pension, and leaving the jurisdiction before anything can be done. But let's get back to my guest. That's a different show. Let's get back to Wayne. Wayne also knows a little bit about the original 13th Amendment. What can you tell us, and what is the impact of the original 13th Amendment? Wayne Bachmann.
I'd be happy to share it, but there's something I need to share this before I get into that.
All right.
When Mel Bundy was arrested, they threw him into a solitary confinement, a little concrete box with no sanitary facilities. He had to lay in his own excrement for 3 days. They did not feed him anything but stale bread for the first couple of days. And it was about 3 days later before he finally got a meal. That's how disgusting these people are that are holding these patriots in. Ryan and Ammon Bundy have been strapped to a stretcher and thrown in solitary. They have had their legal I hate to say lawful because a lot of it's not, but they had their legal documents taken away from them so they couldn't defend themselves. They were denied the opportunity to defend themselves. There is just atrocious crimes going on in these jails, and it needs to come to an end. They're all owned by corporations for profit, and that's what it's all about. I have been in jail too, unlawfully. And the minute I got put in there, I started doing investigation work. I wanted to find out what is going on. So I was asking other inmates, what were you put in for? What are the circumstances? What I learned is the jails and prisons are all owned by corporations for profit, and it's just a forced motel system. They charge the naive taxpayers for the occupation of the bed every night. It's just totally disgusting what's going on. And they lock people up on lies and false accusations to keep the bed occupied so they can keep the money rolling in. That's what it's all about.
You're not the only one that's been falsely arrested and locked up.
Mm-hmm. I know.
I was arrested and locked up for running for county supervisor over a decade ago, and the judge had me released without making me appear in a hearing. It was such an embarrassment to the county. So you're not alone, and I'm hoping Trump really does represent we the people.
I hope so too. In my talking to other people,
say the name again, Wayne, slowly. The guy that was forced 3 days to lay in his own excrement.
Mel Bundy, Ryan and Ammon's brother,
a younger brother.
Steve Bundy is in there also, and he was only in there for taking pictures, because he was photographing the unlawful conduct of BLM down there in Nevada.
Steve Bundy.
No, that was Dave Bundy.
Dave Bundy.
Mel was the one that had to lay in his own excrement for 3 days.
Mel did.
Yes.
Wow. Well, based on what I've seen and heard of Trump, I think there's going to be some dramatic changes, and they can't come too soon.
Yeah, I've already sent papers into bonding companies with a directive to post it on their APB, letting them know who all's. I don't have the names of all the criminals, but I have the names of all the patriots that have been unlawfully dealt with, and those bonding companies now have that with directives to post this on their APB. So there better be some changing, or we're going to hold the bonding companies as accessories for not getting rid of these unlawful players in the government.
How long do you think, Wayne Bachmann, how long do you think it'll take Trump to tell that U.S. Attorney General that prosecuted the Bundys in Portland a year ago that he's fired?
Well, I think there needs to be more than firing. I think we need to hold. When I was a kid, 1964, I remember this. I remember somebody being executed, put before a firing squad for treason. And I think we need to go back to that process.
I
in
agree.
1960, I think it was.
These guys, I agree. These guys need to be fired, then put on indicted, then put on trial, then convicted, preferably by a jury of their victims, and then they need to be executed for high treason. What do you think about that judge that was texting the prosecutor while the trial was going on up there? What was her name? Brown? Judge
Are you
Brown?
talking about Aunt Brown? Judge Anna Brown?
Yeah.
Scumbag, as far as I'm concerned.
She's a what?
Oh, you didn't hear that? Scumbag.
A scumbag. I thought you said skunk.
Well, probably that too.
Too much.
I have no respect for them. I am very well aware of the original 13th Amendment, and you and I know that because we've talked.
Tell me about what you know. Tell me about what you know about the original 13th Amendment. People don't know this. I've been talking about it. The people locally here think I'm just a lone crazy guy that made this up out of thin air, and I have shown them the 4 volumes that prove this amendment was ratified and published for 50 years. Wayne, talk.
When I first started this, it was being put in jail and beaten and tased and everything is why I got onto this search. And I wanted to know why they're getting away with all of this criminal conduct on people who have lived law-abidingly. What I found out is the bar is behind almost all of this. They're tied in with the banks, they're tied in with the courts, they're tied in with the politicians.
Well, they control most of the state legislatures, don't they? Don't most of the state legislatures are 40, 50, 70% lawyers?
I would say at least that much.
And all of them are members of the bar.
Yeah.
And the bar is a British accreditation registry of foreign entity. Is that not true?
That is true. Absolutely
Is that true from your studies, or did I tell you to say that?
No, didn't put anything in my mouth. I have the studies. I have 3-ring binders on this stuff. I have a 3-ring binder on the Bar Association. I have a 3-ring binder on the original 13th Amendment that has nothing to do with slavery. It has to do with keeping bar registrants out of our government and courts. And it wasn't called bar originally. Abraham Lincoln was the first, I'm not going to say bar registrant because he didn't come up with that at that time. He was a London Lawyers Guild member, and that is a title of nobility. He had no business even running for president. He violated the original 13th Amendment just simply by running for president and being sworn in. And so we need to just get that out of the system. Get all of these bar registrants out of our courts, out of our government, and get back to obeying the original Constitution that was set on a shelf in 1871. And actually, I got the notice today that apparently the original corporation was done in 1868. I have the DUNS number for it. And so we know that this bar stuff goes back at least to 1868 because I don't remember what I did with the list, but it is a United States Inc. I think it's United States of America, and it's a corporation. And that's
you have the DUN number on it.
Yes, I have the DUNS number. I don't know what I did with it. It's here someplace.
Well, we got photos of the original 13th Amendment.
Right.
I've been talking about this now for, I can't remember how many years, but it was amazing to me. And I finally said, I've got to own volumes of this thing to prove it. There it is on the screen, people. That one's dated can't make it, the 1830 what? 35? 1825. And that's from which state? Matt?
Vermont.
Portland. Would make it Maine. Portland, Maine. Yeah, that's a Maine copy. In fact, that's what the two guys that rediscovered this in the 80s, and I just interviewed one down in Florida. One's still alive. One was a hippie, and one was a cop. And they were arguing over something, and said, let's get the oldest copy of the Constitution. And the librarian brought this up. I now have an exact copy of that 1832, and it's not a copy of an original. It is an original, multiple printed one from 1832. And there it is. The 13th Amendment is very, very short. If any citizen...
I've got mine here. I can read it.
I can't read it off the screen from here, but it's there on the screen.
Well, I have it right here in my lap. Give me a second to flip to it, and I'll read it for you. Oh, by golly, here we go. Here's something that I want to show you anyway. Here's something that pertains to the BLM. Let me show you that.
Okay.
I need to get over this way.
Right about there. Hold still, right there. Hold still. Okay, we got a good shot.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
Did you see what it says?
I couldn't read it, but I can blow it up later.
Federal Land Acquisition Corp. Now, I think that's where they're taking the properties through. Is this a corporation, government corporation, to take people's properties?
Well, this is a big issue. We could go a whole another hour just on this. Yeah. Hold real still. Back up a little bit. Right there. Hold still. Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it. We got it. Frozen. Central Intelligence.
Yep, Central Intelligence Agency. Central Intelligence Agency. It's another corporation. Okay. Here's another one. United States Treasury. U.S. Treasury, Inc.
Yeah, these are all corporations.
Yeah.
That one's a Delaware corporation. I can read that much. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Let me find the one.
Going back to the War of 1812, what did the War of 1812 have to do with the original 13th Amendment, in your opinion?
I think that, okay, I'll just state it as my opinion. The War of 1812, let's back up a little bit before the War of 1812. The first ratification of the original 13th Amendment took place in 1812. I don't remember exactly what month, but I know you know it. And that is what the war was about. England did not like the fact that we were not allowing their London Lawyers Guild people to be in our constitution or in our government and in the courts. So they had the War of 1812 and burnt the Capitol down to burn up the papers pertaining to that ratification. And that's why the ratification was done again in 1819. March 12, 1819 was the second ratification date for the original 13th Amendment.
Right, exactly. So we'll have to do a whole show on that, Wayne. Is there a different issue you want to cover tonight?
I got to show you this. I know you know this, but your viewers may not.
I see the state of Delaware.
Internal Revenue Service, Inc.
Okay, Internal Revenue Service, Inc. We have to get better copies of that. Wayne, I want to thank you for being on the show with us tonight.
Sure.
Are we ready to see Donald Trump being inaugurated? Because today, he has now been president for almost 8 hours, and I know many of you people watch this. One of the annoying things to me was listening to NBC commentators trying to deconstruct what he said. What he said was very positive and uplifting to every reasonable, clear-thinking American, in my humble opinion. What about your opinion?
Mine too, exactly. I was happy with what he said.
And I've never met Wayne face to face. He at least got to the Malauer Reserve, which I didn't get up there when that whole thing was going on. Probably a good thing, because I'd probably be in leg irons too. But the jury saw through all the crap. But now we have a real president. He was born in the United States. Both his parents were Americans at the time he was born, which makes him qualified, besides being over the age of 35. I think he's now the oldest president He's still a year younger than me.
By the way, I have a copy of Obama's real birth certificate with the footprint, and it is from Kenya.
I know that. We'll have to do
Okay.
that another show. I didn't know you had a copy, Wayne. I didn't know that. But we'll
Yep.
have to get you back and do another show. This has worked
Right.
pretty well. Let's see our
We
new
never.
President Donald John Trump take the oath of office in his first speech, or at least
We
see his
never-
speech.
Introduced for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Chief Justice Roberts, President Carter, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, fellow Americans, and people of the world, thank you. We, the citizens of America, are now joined in a great national effort to rebuild our country and restore its promise for all of our people. Together, we will determine the course of America and the world for many, many years to come. We will face challenges. We will confront hardships, but we will get the job done. Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. And we are grateful to President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama for their gracious aid throughout this transition. They have been magnificent. Thank you. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. Politicians prospered, but the jobs left and the factories closed. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of our country. Their victories have not been your victories. Their triumphs have not been your triumphs. And while they celebrated in our nation's capital, there was little to celebrate for struggling families all across our land. That all changes starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment. It belongs to you. It belongs to everyone gathered here today and everyone watching all across America. This is your day. This is your celebration. And this, the United States of America, is your country. What truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Everyone is listening to you now. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. At the center of this movement is a crucial conviction that a nation exists to serve its citizens. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable demands of righteous people and a righteous public. But for too many of our citizens, a different reality exists. Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories.
What's the one thing he could do as president that in your mind would make Trump the greatest president in your lifetime? Just throwing the question. Now I'm waiting to hear your answers, and I will read your answers on the next Take Back America, because I think Trump just took a giant stride for us all to take back America. I'm William Wagener with Bachmann. Thanks for watching. Tune in later this week on the repeat.